Hi everyone, it's Ms. Bond here again as we continue our series on analyzing arguments. What I'm going to be talking about for a few minutes is the use of evidence and the types of evidence that are used. Just to recap, remember that any evidence that's being used, that's something of some information that's being used to develop or support a claim, an argument that you actually have. Now, every type of evidence that you see in an argument needs to follow some criteria. In order to truly be persuasive, as well as to truly support a claim, there needs to be an element of relevancy as well as accuracy. It has to be correct. And finally, sufficient. You need enough of it. So in following that criteria and making sure that things are relevant, accurate, and sufficient, there are types of evidence that you should be on the lookout for. The first type of evidence is that of first-hand evidence. This is something that you know, whether it's from your own personal experience or some anecdotes that you've heard or observations and your general knowledge about certain things. Now, in personal experience, what this does is gives it some type of personal story. It brings in a human element to the argument, where you talk about how something has affected you, or you've participated in, or watched, or been in, as far as being present at. And what this really does, it, in addition to appealing to pathos, because what happens is your audience is able to make an emotional connection with you, it helps the most when the writer can speak as an insider, which also helps establish ethos on some level. Now, keep in mind, though, that hasty generalization can happen oftentimes in these instances where if there is too much reliance on a personal experience, the thought process is that, okay, it happened to this person, and so it must be the case for everyone who experiences that same situation. And that's not necessarily the case. It may just be that one person in that one instance. So human element, yes, but is it the only source of evidence that you want to use? Not necessarily. Anecdotes are also a type of first-hand evidence that is used. You'll see the word anecdote quite often on standardized tests, as well as on the AP exam that is fast approaching. Oh, where does time go? But what an anecdote is, to make sure that people are aware, it's a short, it's not really long, a short story that can be amusing or interesting, somehow relevant to what it is that you're talking about a real person or incident. And this also is right back up there with this whole good old pathos in the idea of supporting a claim and bringing in a human element and the audience connecting. We know that politicians use this quite often, and our now President Barack Obama does this quite well and is well known for his use of interjection of individuals that he has encountered on the campaign trail about their life story and what they said to him, and or what their life story happens to be and how it somehow relates to why he is in support of this or not in support of that. We also saw Mitt Romney do the same thing during the debates, especially when they gave their closing remarks. They would give personal anecdotes about those individuals that they had met while they were campaigning and why they were in support of whatever their platform happened to be. A third type a third type of personal or first-hand evidence, where are my words going today, is that of current events. And current events, we know and love, are events that have been accessed firsthand through the observation of current local, national, and global issues. So you're reading the newspaper, you're watching the news, you are participating in it, you are on a social networking site that gives you information about those incidents. And what current events really do is helps move the effectiveness along of an argument, because the information is current, it's now, it's readily accessible. And what makes current events most useful, though, is not just saying, oh, I got that from a newspaper, but the fact that you use multiple perspectives in support of that claim that you have made. Now, some of you may be saying, well, firsthand experience, or firsthand evidence, I'm not living in Afghanistan or in Egypt or Iran or in Pakistan, where there are some hot button issues that are happening. I don't live there, so how is this firsthand? It's firsthand because you are living in the same time period as it's happening, and so your access of it is current, and so that's what makes it firsthand. Also, please keep in mind as you listen to this, if you hear what sounds like running, you're listening to someone running. Remember that the track team uses the 4th floor as their practice spot, so you will probably hear that. Okay. The second type of evidence, which is very apropos and being named that, is secondhand evidence. And this is evidence that is accessed through research, reading, and investigation. And what you're doing there is you're citing what somebody else knows, not what you know, which is also different from a current event. And the focus of this type of evidence really is logos, where it's showing reason, it's showing logic, it's showing that someone has put some effort and thought through making whatever their claim is and the support that they're using as evidence of that. Now, this can include factual and historical information. It can include expert opinion as well as quantitative, think numbers here, and that type of data. In expert opinion, this is when you're using an expert in a field, a person who has some type of published research on a topic, or even if they haven't been published, they have a lot of experience, job or life experience that gives that person specialized knowledge about what it is that you're talking about. So a local expert is someone that you can definitely use or be on the lookout for when you're listening to other people's arguments. If you think about if you're writing a paper on school policy, then you want to use a local teacher or a part of the student government to support your claim for whatever it happens to be. If it is something on parenting and you have a group of local moms who are, putting together really engaging activities, you want to use those as your experts. You also, though, want to look at those people who have done some research in whatever your field of study happens to be, so that they are the best people. Now, keep in mind, though, there is a fallacy that, and I'm talking a little bit louder because of the track team and their practices, but there's a possibility of a fallacy being the appeal to false authority. Now, this is different from the fallacy that we've been talking about, but sometimes authorities are put out as being, I'm the person that you need to listen to, when in reality, this person has no experience in what it is that you're talking about. We see advertisements where we have professional athletes who are talking about the effectiveness of pharmaceuticals. I appreciate you as an athlete, but I need someone with some MD or something behind their name for me to trust that this medicine works, as opposed to this person who throws said ball or uses some type of sporting utensil. So, yeah, I think you get the idea. You also can use historical information in support of a claim and the use of evidence. Now, what historical information is exactly what it sounds like. It's something that's verifiable. There are facts that a writer knows from doing some type of research. It gives you background, it gives you context. It definitely establishes a writer's ethos in relation to the fact that this person is reasoned and has done their background work. Now, it can get complicated, so it's usually a better thing to keep your information brief as well as being accurate. And what is often used to do, though, in the course of argument is to give some type of comparison to show that there has been some changes or that there is some actual similarities between what is happening right now and what happened in the past. Now, once again, in any argument, there's a possibility of some weakness. And so the fallacy of post hoc ergo propter hoc, most often usually just called post hoc, really, it means after which, therefore, because of which. Fancy, I know. But really what it is that it's a fallacy of causation where because this happened, this has to also happen. Think of it as a superstitious type of fallacy where because I walked underneath the bridge, no, not the bridge, I'm sorry, walked underneath the ladder, I did not get the job that I went in to apply for. The two of those things have absolutely nothing to do with each other. The reality is, yes, I did walk underneath the ladder. However, the reason why I didn't receive the job, number one, I wasn't qualified for it. Number two, I was late for the interview. And number three, I wasn't dressed appropriately. So those three things are actually what made it possible for me not to attain employment at that location, not the fact that I walked underneath the bridge. Why do I keep wanting to say underneath the bridge? Underneath the ladder. But in a post hoc, ergo propter hoc fallacy, that's exactly what happens. Okay, make sure we clear all those nice little drawings that I made. Lastly, we have quantitative evidence, and quantitative is anything that can be thought in terms of numbers, statistics, surveys, polls, census info. If you think about something like the sales total $150 billion, which is an increase of over 50%, that type of information is quantitative. And it's pretty straightforward, but keep in mind that there's a possibility of the bandwagon appeal, which is Latin for ad populum. What happens in bandwagon is that evidence is based on everybody's doing it, so it must be a good thing to do. And statistics are great for making people make that assumption. So 80% of all dentists use this toothpaste. 80%, that's a good high number. Well, all these dentists are doing it. I'm going to do it too. Yeah, the reason why those dentists use it is because they got paid to, and they then threw it away. Yay. When you think about that old question that countless mothers and fathers have asked their children, if all your friends jumped off such and such bridge, would you do it too? We can think in our imagination that everybody is some quantitative number. You have about 10, 15 friends all total. And so you're saying, oh, if all 15 of my friends jumped off the bridge, would I do it? No, I wouldn't. At least I hope you say that. However, those are the types of bandwagon situations that can be used to make people feel that it is appropriate to be in agreement with or follow or make that type of change in policy or action, because statistics have shown that other people are doing the same thing as been suggested. So those are the different types of evidence. We have first-hand evidence and second-hand evidence with different varying types within the two. Be on the lookout for the use of those types of evidence in arguments and be able to pinpoint what those types of evidence are and whether or not they are effective at driving home the claim that is mentioned. And we'll have lots of practice in analyzing argument to see if that person has or has not used those elements.